Hi everyone, it's Rachel with Dark Night Coaching. Today's video is all about your pineal gland. So if you're not sure what a pineal gland is, you might want to check out my video about your third eye chakra that you can find here on YouTube. Yeah, I will go into more detail kind of telling you what your third eye chakra does and what it's for, but today's video I'm going to just break down your pineal gland. I might say pineal gland. Sometimes I get it confused. It's pronounced pineal, but I like to say pineal. I don't know why. Mostly because when I think it's because when I talk about it, I think of a pine cone. So if you've ever seen those Egyptian symbols of like someone holding a pine cone, it's because that's a reference to your pineal gland, because pineal stems from pine cone, because it is literally the shape almost of a pine cone. It's very similar, a similar structure of that. So the pineal gland is a crystalline structure that's inside of the brains of most vertebrate animals or organisms, essentially. So a lot of studies have been done on whales, cats, dogs, seals, walruses, those sorts of things. I think seals and walruses have larger pineal glands than most. Humans have a pineal gland. Scientifically, the scientific community for Western medicine mostly says that the pineal gland is used for the secretion of melatonin, basically. And melatonin is the thing that kind of makes you sleepy. So the pineal gland is basically I like to think of it as our connection to spirit. And a lot of the times, because of the chemicals that are in our water, fluoride mainly, and the chemicals that are in our air, if you believe in chemtrails, and the chemicals that are in our food and substances and those sorts of things, and just, everyday materials that we use all the time without even thinking, soaps, detergents, you name it. There's a lot of additives that are not so great for our bodies, and our bodies are our temple. And when we culturally have been accustomed to using these processed materials, sometimes they're laden with things that aren't necessarily good for your pineal gland. And your pineal gland is a crystal, but it can get basically covered in a sort of, I'm trying to think of a good way to phrase this. It can get encased, basically. So this is your pineal gland, for lack of a better example. It can get encompassed with these chemical additives. They basically are attracted, especially fluoride, it's attracted to that crystalline structure, and it kind of over encompasses it, and it covers it. But there are ways that you can clear your pineal gland, and there are things that you can do to help yourself. So if you have a hard time sleeping, if you feel like you've been driven to take melatonin because you just can't, you have a difficulty sleeping, you probably more than likely have an encrusted pineal gland, and that's also interfering with your sleep cycles. But there are different things where you can basically instill practices where you can try to lessen the amount of chemicals or additives that you're using on your body, and that will help clear your pineal gland. But there's different types of yoga you can do that are tied to breathing. So one way, if you're trying to flush all of this encompassed crust, I'll call it, off of your pineal gland, and you want to get rid of it, to wipe it away, you can do something called hatha yoga, which is breathing, where you take in big deep breaths, and then you kind of push all of that energy toward your root chakra, or like toward your lower pelvis region, and you kind of build up this pressure. And what happens is when you do these bigger breaths, you build up this pressure, and then your cerebral spinal fluid that's constantly flowing builds up pressure in your body as well. And then that cerebral spinal fluid floats up through your thalamus area, essentially, which is pretty close to where your pineal gland is located, and it flushes with the cerebral spinal fluid. It flushes it, and it basically, a little bit at a time, it will chip away and flake off any crusting that's happened based on your amount of fluoride use, or if you drink tap water, it has a lot of fluoride in it. If you haven't noticed the big trails in the sky, if you believe in that, it's kind of a conspiracy theory. Nobody can prove what's in the air air that the chemtrails leave, but I have a feeling it's probably something fluoride related. So if you can do the hatha yoga breathing and make that a regular practice, it can take a long time before your pineal gland is cleared, but that is one way to do it. A lot of the time there are some fun ways that you can do cleansing for that as well. Having a climactic experience is known to help cleanse your pineal gland. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this PG, but it is if you have a lot of climactic experiences, it is kind of almost like holding that breath in the same sense, and then when you release it cleanses because of you're pushing that cerebral spinal fluid up your spine without even really knowing what you're doing. So if you're doing that, that's a common way you can cleanse your pineal gland. And then what was the other way? I just had it, but I lost my train of thought. Hatha yoga, I mean, just removing any fluoride additives from your diet, but they say fluoride is good for preventing cavities, but there are also other ways to prevent cavities, which is cutting back on junk food and cutting back on the sugar and those sorts of things. And even if you're using like a special water filtration system, I have something, I forget what it's called. I think it's called Epic water filter, and that's what I use to get rid of fluoride in my tap water. But I do like a dual filtration system thing for my own water, and that can help cleanse because you're basically getting rid of any additional fluoride. And when you look, if you want to give the pineal gland a Google on the internet and you're looking up the anatomy of it, if you look at it, the reason I mentioned the pine cone in Egypt is because it is actually tied to the Eye of Horus. So if you take the what's that called? When you cut a brain in half and you open it up, it looks like the Eye of Horus and it looks like the Eye of Ra because it's the thalamus gland, and that's why you commonly see those in Egyptian markings, because it's basically symbolic of somebody holding the pine cone, which is the pineal gland, and saying that's the key to connection. That's the key to connecting with spirit, because the crystal inside of our brains acts like a transponder, and then that's how we can channel messages and connect to the divine, and we can connect to our highest self faster because we have our third eye open, so we can see into different dimensions essentially. So scientifically, your pineal gland is used for secreting melatonin. Now, it is also with the melatonin that's aligned with our sleep cycles, but then where do we go when we sleep? That's a good question, right? So where does our soul go when our body is resting? If you believe in a soul. But, scientifically, I try to keep this channel as scientific as possible because I have my own conspiracy theories about everything. But from everything that I've gathered with all of my research, our soul weighs 21 grams. That has been scientifically proven that upon our deaths, our bodies lose 21 grams into thin air. It just goes somewhere. No one knows where it goes, but that is our essence. That's our very being. That's our soul, is that 21 grams. So where does our soul go when our body is sleeping and is at rest? Because our soul is conscious thought. We are loving awareness. We are living awareness. We are conscious thought. So when our body goes to sleep, our soul goes somewhere. And that soul basically goes out to the ether. And then, we might connect then with our highest self in a more defined way. We might connect with our spirit guides. We might go, somewhere else. That's totally up to you if you believe that or not. I have a lot of theories on where our soul goes when we sleep, but the pineal gland, according to Rene Descartes, is where our soul can interact with the physical body. So I like to think of it as basically our transponder. So this body that we're in right now is like our meat suit, and when we die, we will inevitably probably pick another meat suit to come into and to wear and to go through life lessons and to trial again. If you're a believer in past lives, which there have been studies about past lives and things like that, which has also been scientifically proven in ways. So the soul controls our body in a sense through the pineal gland. So a lot of the times, a lot of us might be lost in the monotony of being like the cog in the wheel of the machine and just doing the daily grind and not really not feeling like the sole purpose, like not feeling driven, not feeling like we are, fulfilling something, kind of just feeling like we're doing like this run around grind thing. And that's because we're probably not aligned with our soul. So when our pineal gland gets crusted over, it cuts off that connection we have to source, to oneness, to the ether, the connection we have to each other, and it almost immobilizes us in a spiritual way, and it leaves us leading our lives through the lens of ego and the lens of this lower vibrational self, because we're not accessing the higher chakras, which is the third eye chakra, and it leaves us in this almost like primal instinctual state of being where we're living in these like lower vibe energy states of like fight or flight, which is tied to your root chakra, and then you have your sacral and your solar plexus. And that is basically when you're living in this like red, orange, and yellow state of mind. It really inhibits, sorry, my throat made a weird noise there. It really inhibits any growth. So if we want to access our higher abilities, if we want to access our soul's purpose, cleansing that pineal gland is key, because then you can have a clearer connection to source, and you can have a clearer vision of otherworldly things, paranormal things, other dimensions, and you can have a vision of the future potentially too, like a clearer vision of maybe what you're looking for in the future, or you can actually sometimes foreshadow and have premonitions or prophetic type experiences because your pineal gland is clear. So a lot of the times in, think back to the old mythology types of things, there were seers who could, or prophecy people or prophets who could predict and foretell the future, and it's because they had a connection to source that most had maybe not tapped into as much. So if you're really looking to open your third eye chakra, make sure you really work on your pineal gland and cleansing that, and just making healthy food, healthy non-additive chemical things part of your daily process, because you are quite literally what you eat and what you absorb. And I know, like, if it's in the air and things like that, you can't really help but be outside and absorb some of the chemicals that are maybe in our atmosphere without us even being approving of it or being very conscious of it. So what else? But once you do clear your third eye, you probably will not have a need for melatonin, because your sleep will probably regulate itself even better, because it's like your soul is going to know when you're in alignment and when you need what and things like that. So I think that's what I have for you. Just remember that, soul is conscious thought. The third eye is just a almost like an antenna for our connection with spirit. And like if you're older like me, I don't want to say how old I am, but I'm older enough. When I was a kid, we used to have those antennas on our TV, and you'd have to adjust the two things in the middle flap too in order to get a good signal. And that's kind of like how your pineal gland acts for your brain and your connection to spirit and leading you on your life's path. So you might have to do some adjusting in order to get access to your third eye chakra, in order to have that open. And once it does open, you're going to feel like this, almost like this headache feeling in between your eyebrows. At least that's how it was for me. It kind of hits you, because it's like a lot of information you're receiving at once, because basically at that point you become a channel for spirit, and you are receiving information into your brain, and that can it can cause headaches for quite some time. So that was my experience anyways. But if you have more questions, or if you want to know more information about your third eye chakra, please make sure you click over to my third eye chakra video, because I talk about each chakra. I kind of break down the basics and what it means when your third eye opens and things like that. But if this video helped, please click the like button. It helps my channel grow, and I greatly appreciate it. And if you're interested in a one-on-one coaching session, please feel free to reach out and send me a message. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.